Sarah, and I definitely am a compulsive eater and food addict. And I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the Cambridge Gray Sheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor, and I eat what I say I'm going to eat. I don't eat in between meals, no matter what. It is the most important thing in my life without exception. And most things I do are as a defense against that first bite. My absence date is May 24th, 2009. So for those of you who got on after I said why I was the speaker, I spoke here 3 months ago when I had my Gray Sheet 15-year anniversary. But I have a birthday in 9 days, so maybe that counts. So I learned something this morning. I had a speaker for tonight, and she had to cancel because she had to work at last minute. And I started writing people and calling people and writing people and calling people. And after I reached about 10 or 12,
Mm.
I realized that I was going to get a resentment. It was the same resentment I used to have when I was new, when people didn't answer their phone. And at that moment, it's really interesting because I think this shows how much recovery works. I realized at that moment I could either indulge my resentment and just keep going with what I was doing and get madder and madder and madder, and feel very justified. I think they call it justified anger in the big book. Or I could give up and say, I don't want to have a resentment. That is the number one offender. I'll just speak myself. So that's the route I chose, and I didn't get a resentment. People are very busy. They don't always see their texts, and people have excuses, and it is August, and most people are doing something else. And it's rather late notice. So since most of you, almost all of you have heard my story a number of times, and I think you all know I've earned my seat here, that I am definitely a food addict and have never, not once, had a normal relationship with a bite of food. And that it took me 26 years to get this abstinent, 26 years of day ones and running away and doing all sorts of things. I was thinking about the slogans. So if you would care to, and nobody has to do this, I'm going to pick a slogan and tell you why it's important to me. And when you share, if you'd like to join me, think of a slogan that has been really important to you and tell us all why, especially Beth, who's just come back and got 5 days. It's nice to talk to newcomers. So the one I decided to pick is "This too shall pass." And the reason I decided to pick that, because all of them work for me, but I really, really believed, I mean, it wasn't anything I even questioned, that when shit happened to me, it was going to last forever. And I didn't even question it. And it was very rare that I had good feelings because, well, I now know that sugar and grains it's like throwing oil on a fire. For me, it's a depressant. So I was either blue, really blue, depressed, or suicidally depressed. And the other, I didn't know much about. So I came into Gray Sheet, and I heard that "This too shall pass." And incidents when I've used it. Well, I'll tell you first that before I actually believed it, I said it facetiously to someone, and they said, "Yep, this too shall pass, the good things as well as the bad things." And I thought, no, don't tell me that. I just want the bad things to pass. But it was a leveler, that when I really grasped what this meant is that it's a reason to live every moment in the present, because this too shall pass. But one moment I can think of right off the bat is in 2017, I went back to Oakland and had hip surgery on my right hip. And I gave up my apartment here in Paris and decided that I was going to not do it over the internet the way I had done before, but come back to Paris so I could see the apartments. And while I was doing that, I lived in one of these servants' quarters that are at the very top of these old, beautiful old buildings in Paris. And a friend of mine had a huge apartment and she had two of them. She owned two of them. So it was a little tiny studio with one window. And we had a heat wave, a really bad heat wave, and there was no movement in or out. And everybody was told to turn the electricity off. And I remember lying there on this twin bed and thinking, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And it was very comforting. It was not, it was miserable. I mean, I knew I couldn't sleep. It was way too hot. But I really believed, that if I could just hang on and not get myself all into a snit, the heat wave would pass, whatever else would pass. And now I look back on it and I can't remember. I mean, I remember it visually, but I can't remember any of the feelings involved. I just remember being profoundly proud of myself that I remembered a saying that worked, that not it is, I think you know what I mean by worked. It not only just worked, it made my life better. I didn't do anything stupid, which I could do. Um, and right now, um, a lot of you don't know this, but I'm selling my home in Oakland, and it went into escrow last Wednesday. And so if everything goes okay, I will be sold by the end of August. At the same time, and this was just coincidental, I found a new place to live here in Paris that's slightly bigger and has a really nice guest room, Katrine, if you want to come back. Um, and so everything sort of hit me. I have all these papers to sign, and I have 2-hour phone calls with my realtor. And of course, if you're talking to California from Paris, there's like a 5-hour window, and everybody wants that 5-hour window. And I've been telling myself, this is actually only about a month long. This is going to pass. This too shall pass. Don't always use those words. And I don't feel stressed. I don't feel like I can't do something. I just know I can put one foot in front of the other. And I feel weird. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's like all this stuff is going on. I'm juggling 10 balls in the air. And I'm even saying no to people. I'm saying I can't do it right now. Wait till all this is over. With a smile, I even say it. And it really feels weird to I think there's somewhere in the big book where it says that we will instinctively know what the promise is. It says we will instinctively know what to do. And that's what it's feeling like. I don't feel that I'm making a decision. I feel like this is who I am. I'm putting one foot in front of the other, doing what I'm told, doing what I need to do. And if I don't get it done, I don't think the world's going to fall apart if I do it tomorrow morning. And for someone who thought the world was going to end if I didn't do it yesterday, I was so impatient that just trying to be the best in the world was a stressful thing for me. And Grania tells us all the time, if you want to know why you eat, stop eating. These things are why I ate, these feelings that I lived with on a daily basis and didn't realize I had a choice. I had a choice to choose a different path. And I would eat over them because they were so painful, especially when 3 or 4 at one time. The stress, the depression, the belief that I was shit and I was going to be a piece of crap for the rest of my life, which is all part of my victim mentality. And So, even just talking to you and saying that I will instinctively, these things are coming instinctively, it feels miraculous, and miracles happen in this program, but time also passes. And if we want to stay abstinent, you start choosing the right path and not the wrong path. We know if we choose one of two paths where it's going to lead. So it does take some courage to choose the second path and try something new, especially if our sponsors told us, or some trusted person that we feel close to in the program said this worked for me. And every fiber in our body wants to say, no, I got to do it that way. That's my way. And we do it that way, and we're back in the food. And we don't learn. I learned after 26 years to follow directions. How much time do I have? Oh, I see, 4 minutes. I'm trying to think of some more incidents of this too shall pass. I've rarely felt hungry. I think in 2011, my aunt was very, very ill, and they lived in Princeton, New Jersey, and I was out in California, and I wanted to get back in time to say goodbye to her. And it was the first time I actually felt hunger. Um, I think it was hunger. I felt something that said it's time to eat when it was between meals. Um, and it felt like this might be what hunger feels like, because I'm really not sure what hunger feels like. Um, and it lasted for about 4 days. And I had to make some phone calls. I walked through it. You guys told me to make extra special meals, the meals I loved. And my aunt died, and I am still abstinent. And that was interesting for me. Um, my life feels so unbelievable. So this birthday I'm going to have in 9 days, I'm going to be 77, and I can't believe it. That number is like off the scale somewhere. And in Paris here, if you rent to a senior, there's a certain risk involved, because you are not allowed to throw a senior out if he or she refuses to move. If somebody's over 70, you cannot throw them out. On top, I see some people's eyes widening. Between November and the end of April, you can't throw somebody out because it's really cold outside. So if you say we need the apartment where my son has now 2 children, he's going to move in, and they refuse, you have to get an attorney or something. So it was looking kind of bleak that I really wanted a 2-bedroom apartment. I wanted an office because I'm writing more and more. And somebody reached out to me from one of the organizations that I have joined. And it's a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's got a cob, they call it, where you can store stuff, and it has a small terrace, but it's big enough. And it's just what I was looking for. And this is the weird part. When my house sells, all the utilities that I've been paying to keep that house going is exactly the amount I need of extra rent to get this apartment. And so some of my friends are saying, thank you. Some of my friends are saying, well, isn't that expensive? Why are you doing that? And I'm thinking, thanks, Joel. It's really expensive to be looking and feel pissed off and feel scared you're not going to find something. And have had troubles with the agency here. I don't think they're very good. The other apartment doesn't have an agency. I think it's worth it. It's worth it on many different levels. And so many things in my life feel like those are happening, but I think I have to be somewhat solid on my 2 feet so that I know when they're happening and can say thank you. And I'm grabbing that. My mother used to say, I can see I'm almost, my mother used to say, there's no such thing as luck. There's only opportunity, and then grabbing it. So Thank you all. I will remind you, I'm gonna have the Hollywood stars music in a minute. A slogan. If you are willing to play along with me on these Hollywood squares, think of a favorite slogan and then tell us why it's important to you. And if you don't care to do that, share anything you want. I don't eat no matter what. Thank you.